Of being timely, we'll get started. So again, welcome everyone joining in wherever you are, in the comfort of your home, hopefully. And something I like to do, and I'll invite everybody to do here, is just to sit up nice and tall and just to take 3 full deep breaths wherever you are. And just notice any level of stress or anxiety that in that simple inhale and exhale perhaps melts away. And we're happy to have you here. Happy to have you joining us. And so the title of this particular webinar is called Preventing Relapse in a Time of Crisis. And COVID-19 is on everyone's mind these days. And we hope that today's presentation will help address anyone's concern, especially in their recovery journey. This recovery journey that we know many of you have been so dedicated to, have worked so hard to maintain. My name is Benjamin Rae, and again, I work with the wonderful Ideal Option community. And while we are nationwide in many states, I am personally based in the greater Seattle area. Each day I have the great fortune to work with many people suffering from multiple addictions. Yet at Ideal Option, we primarily work with people who have been afflicted in some way by opiate, stimulant, or alcohol abuse. And every day I am reminded, working with patients, of the incredible courage and the incredible bravery of the human spirit. I have full confidence everyone listening can access this courage and can access this bravery. And I hope you all will remind yourselves of this throughout the day, every day. I've learned more about recovery and addiction from our patients than any book. And so thank you all for sharing your stories and being advocates for yourselves. I'm known to often speak of the strength that is found within recovery communities. And may this current crisis lead us not into isolation, but be a reminder of this need to reconnect every day with our recovery communities. And so some of the things we'll talk about today are a few common stressors and fears and how to cope without reverting back to substance misuse. And if you are a patient listening in currently with any immediate concerns regarding our clinic operations, just know that we are offering appointments in the clinic and taking precautions in the clinic with each visit. And we are also offering virtual appointments through video chat. If you have any questions, please contact our 877-522-1275 telephone number for more information regarding your visits specifically. While patient privacy laws do not allow me to speak specifically about any patients, I'm going to use the story of our mock patient, Rochelle, as an example of a typical patient we see every day. Rochelle is a 35-year-old single mother, and she's living just north of Seattle. She suffered a work-related back injury 6 years ago, and after a medical procedure, was given a prescription of opiate pain medication. This prescription of pain medication eventually led to an addiction, and she began to get her pain pills from the street. Eventually, she started to use heroin. And Rochelle eventually became connected with a treatment program and has been doing well for some time. She previously lived in a women and children's transitional housing complex, but was very excited when she recently moved into a single apartment of her own with her daughter 3 months ago. Rochelle has returned to work, and her daughter was enrolled in a local kindergarten class with supportive after-school programs and daily school lunches. Prior to COVID-19, she had stress of raising her children and maintaining her job, yet she was able to manage and mitigate this stress and was thriving. Now she is faced with a whole new range of stressors and fears. Rochelle is stressed about her job security, as she has been told to stay home from her graphic design job, and that her job will be made redundant because people are canceling. She is home with her daughter alone, and she's unable to attend her weekly recovery support meetings. And suddenly, she is faced with this added stress just mentioned, which has led to anxiety about being able to care for her daughter and maintain her housing. Let me just pull this presentation back up here. There we go. So COVID-19 has created a situation for many people of decreased support and potential increased what we call trigger events. In recovery, we work to eliminate triggers as a primary focus of our efforts when suffering from substance use. So let's take a look at these triggers. And so within on the right side of your screen, social isolation, check. Many of us are in that situation right now. Job and income loss, check. Running out of supplies, fear of getting sick, fear of running out of medications, and then ultimately, fear of relapse. And so this external decreased support can lead to increased stress, which results in an internal feeling of dread or fear that an imagined future event might occur. For Rochelle, this has culminated in her fear she may lose her housing and eventually being unable to provide properly for her daughter. And for each of you listening in, can you notice, have you been able to identify some added level of stress that has caused anxiety? And some added level of stress that has caused an anxiety. Returning to Rochelle. Rochelle is now at home, and her entire routine has changed. She is not able to have her friends over for mother playdates and has been feeling disconnected and lonely. She is caring for her daughter 24/7, and her list of chores has exponentially increased. In addition, with the loss of her job, she has started to question her purpose and her sense of self. She has experienced frustration while at her local markets trying to find household supplies. Her usual discount markets have run out of items, and she's had to go to more expensive markets to buy those household supplies. And finally, due to all these stresses for Rochelle throughout the day, she is experiencing strong emotions, and these strong emotions put her at risk for relapse. While Rochelle's addiction started from a prescription years ago, many others develop an addiction to escape overwhelming emotions and traumas. Rochelle is placed at risk for relapse. In the context of social isolation, some of you may be feeling bored at home, a little bit of depression, feeling disconnected. And perhaps if you are at home with a spouse, there has been some arguing, tension, as well as having to take care of the kids the entire day. And then, as mentioned previously, a loss of routine and potentially some sense of self. And like Rochelle, stress that comes from a change in her job and her income situation. And so now we return back to Rochelle, and her stressors have escalated into fears. She notices she has developed sniffles and a cough, and fears perhaps she herself is getting sick. Perhaps she is a carrier of a virus. In October, she had a relapse, and she is fearful of running out of her medication and relapsing. She is fearful if she does get sick, she won't be able to get to the hospital. So as we addressed earlier in the webinar, do not be concerned about running out of medication, any issues surrounding your appointment, pharmacies closing. We are in partnership with many pharmacies and MAT programs, substance misuse programs across the country. As a provider, I am not aware of any situation yet, and I don't foresee any situation of pharmacies running out of medications. In regards to missing a dose, so let's say you are at home, and this is speaking specifically to some individuals on a medication we commonly prescribe called Suboxone. So Suboxone has a 36-hour half-life. So what does this mean for you and experiencing symptoms? Well, what this probably means is you will be okay if you miss one dose of your medication. This medication has been built up in your system, and so there is no need to be alarmed if you were to miss a dose. That being said, we encourage everybody who is in a substance misuse program and taking a medication to reach out to those respective organizations. And so relapse is an interesting topic in addiction medicine and addiction science. It is now very well accepted and embraced in addiction medicine that relapse is part of one's recovery journey. And oftentimes my patients are very hard on themselves when it comes to a relapse. And so please recognize and see if you can place into perspective all of the hard work, as mentioned earlier, that you have put into your recovery journey, and just to continue on. Adopting a all or nothing attitude here, right? Know that there are a lot of resources, a lot of people here to support you. Just finding that way to eliminate feeling upset about a relapse and increasing the immediacy of returning to your support systems, having that be a primary goal if relapse does occur. So while a lot of us may feel that particular things within COVID-19 protocols, restrictions, stay-at-home policies, while we may feel a lot of things are out of our control, it's important to remind ourselves of some of the things that are in our control. And so what is in Rochelle's control? Well, she has realized that she checks the news frequently throughout the day. And this constant checking of news has created more anxiety. And she decides she is not going to look at her computer, look at her phone, look at the news outlets as frequently. And instead, She's going to use social media to connect with old friends and family. So from my own experience, one thing that I have really recognized as a silver lining within this COVID-19 situation we are all in is the wonderful social media threads, whether that is through Facebook chats, whether that is through text messaging, FaceTime. It has been a really vital part of me feeling stable, me feeling grounded, and feeling connected. And by sharing some of the loneliness and anxiety that I am experiencing, I know has helped to actually dissipate that. And so I, as well, am not checking the news as often and trying to identify who could I reach out to that I haven't talked to in a number of weeks, a number of days, perhaps a number of years. And she can also, Rochelle, work to practice each day smart health measures of social distancing and hygiene. So when she does go out to the market, when she does go to the store, trying to keep that 6-foot distance. When she returns from home, remembering to practice good hand hygiene throughout the day. And she has also been wiping down some of the frequently touched surfaces in her home. Rochelle is a long distance runner. And just because she is not able to congregate with her mother playdate group, she has been going on extended runs. And she has joined an online recovery group. There is a large wealth of online recovery groups that everyone listening in who is interested can join. And I believe we will be able to provide a link to a couple of those recovery groups as well. If you have any questions throughout this discussion, this webinar, please enter them into the chat. And you can submit a question or answer. And then there should be a raise your hand option as well. And we will be answering those at the end. And so, on that note, looking at these particular topics here, I would like to invite those listening in. What are some of the techniques that you have been practicing here, recognizing what's in your power to change?
Adora shared that she is listening to music and also doing some yard work and pulling weeds as a coping skill to deal with her stress.
Oh, thank you, Melody.
And Allie is attending a lot of online meetings as a coping skill and connecting with people online.
Yeah, those are fantastic. As a clinician, I'm in the clinic a lot of the day, and sometimes they are from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. hours. and I don't get to show up to some of the meetings that I've wanted to attend the meetings, to be able to speak from more experience when I'm talking to my patients and friends and family. And so personally, one of the goals I have set for myself is to join in on some of these meetings as well, and I'm really looking forward to doing that.
Yeah, same here. And some other attendees saying they're trying to have FaceTime or Skype hangouts with friends every day. So even if they can't see each other and hang out in person, they're still connecting. And also taking this time to spend quality time with their kids and play games, try to get away from screens and play old school board games. Chelsea shares that she's trying to keep her schedule and her routine as consistent as possible. So even though her routine has changed, she's trying to create a new routine every day. She's finding that helpful. Teresa is definitely trying to stay away from social media and news, but it's been hard, but being very careful about hygiene. And her and her kids actually just planted some flowers, and they're trying to spend some of their days outside, even if it's just within their yard or their neighborhood. And it looks like someone else is actually not only going to online recovery meetings, but they're actually volunteering as facilitators. So he's found some MAP-friendly online recovery groups that have been helpful, and he's raised his hand and volunteered to facilitate that, which I think is another tip we might offer later on in the webinar. And someone else is actually taking the time to teach new things to their little 2-year-old. So even though the 2-year-old isn't necessarily missing school, they're taking the time to teach them new things and explore new things with their kids.
Yeah, these are all amazing. Keep the suggestions, sending them our way. We love to hear what everyone is, how everyone is working with their current situation. I really resonated as well with, was it Chelsea who mentioned that she was building a new routine, recognizing that the routine is something that she thrived on, that I would guess we all would agree that we thrive on having some kind of structure and routine in our day. And I smiled when someone said that they are getting fully dressed every single day, putting on shoes, putting on work clothes while they are at home. And to me, that was especially motivating. So whatever it is that you can build into your daily routine, and setting that up for yourself, I think that is a great way. That sounds like a wonderful way to find support, and that is absolutely in our control. And then, just as mentioned here, a couple of other items to move our bodies, to find a hobby. I was talking to somebody in my apartment building, and she is aware of an older person who is across the hall, and so she slipped a note underneath this neighbor's door, offering to assist with their groceries. Well, this back and forth exchange occurred, and she indeed did pick up and deliver groceries for her, but it has also turned into a new text thread dialogue between this neighbor that she's lived across the hallway from for 6 months to a year, and hadn't really been in conversation with. So another wonderful experience and way to seek out within the limitations that we are currently living under, to really thrive and be of service to others. Very frequently we talk about how finding some kind of volunteer, some kind of service to others as being a great way to establish stability in our recovery. And then the mind-body relaxation. I find it very helpful to do the simple breathing exercises like we did at the beginning of the webinar. But for each of you, you may have your own way of mind-body relaxation techniques. And I encourage you to remind yourselves to practice those and to share those with friends and family. The online recovery groups mentioned, and speaking to a provider. So if you are not currently connected to a medical provider, a counselor, even a primary care provider, so you might have some questions regarding your health that come up at this time that seem more pressing and urgent. Well, if you are connected with a primary care provider and you know how to reach out to that person, that individual, that group, when an emergency does surface, being able to contact them and having already established a relationship will help you to navigate a more acute situation. All right, well, and then just a little bit ideal option. We have over 65 clinics in several states. We have a lot of patients that we are fortunate enough to work with on a daily basis, and a lot of wonderful individuals on our team. Our clinics, we are able to get you in pretty much same day or next day. We can work with particular financial situations. We are an outpatient clinic, no overnight stays. And then, as mentioned earlier, we recognize relapse as part of a recovery journey. So please don't ever feel shy about or embarrassed to share what your experience is right now. All right, well, that is Rochelle's story. And I have been in contact with Rochelle every day, and she is continuing to thrive, and we look forward to seeing her in our clinic. And any questions that any of you might have for us today, we are here for a little bit more time to answer anyone's questions or concerns.
Hey, Ben, it's Melody. We had a question come on over chat earlier. You mentioned at the beginning, you mentioned a slip, but then you also talked about relapse. And so we are wondering if you could go through kind of what a slip means, what a return to use episode means, and what a full relapse means, and the difference between those.
Sure, yeah. Well, I think that those words really they could be used synonymously. So when we talk about a relapse, when we hear about that in the clinic, it's most often a patient will come in, they have established a level of stability. So stability, not just being that they might have found success with medication, but they have found success in a particular job goal that they have, or a housing goal, or a relationship goal, or addressing a depression that they might have. So this is all part of being stable in recovery. And a relapse, it might be that they were walking down the street and they came across a friend that they hadn't seen in 6 months, and that friend said, "Oh, just come over and we'll hang out for the afternoon." Well, then that person found themselves in a house with a few people and ended up using a particular substance. And so that's what we might consider to be a relapse or a slip. Did that answer the question?
I think so. And I think just to reiterate that, you know, even if you have a slip or two, or, you know, go out for a couple days, kind of try not to succumb to all or nothing thinking. Like, you can pick up right where you left off. You don't have to start back at square one, and use any slip or return to use or relapse as a learning opportunity, and try not to beat themselves up about it.
Absolutely, and you know, and one of the things that I like to talk about is having your kind of go-to scenarios that you can opt to choose if cravings come up from triggers. So if a craving comes up and you find yourself, because of overwhelming emotions that are surfacing, well, you have already written down, and maybe you put them on your refrigerator, three different items. So a craving comes up, well, I am going to go for a walk, or I am going to watch this Netflix series. I'm going to call this person. And if you were to relapse, if you were to be at home and you did relapse, as Melody mentioned, to try and find that awareness that you can reach out in that moment of relapse, whether you relapsed on Monday or whether you relapsed on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, being able to pick up the phone, to reach out, to send an email, that your recovery journey is always available to you.
Great, thanks, Ben. We have another question. This one's about marijuana, which is now legal in several states for people over 21. Someone's wondering if you use marijuana, you start overusing it, maybe using it every day or using it when you wake up, can you develop an actual addiction to that? And how do they get help with that? And does Ideal Option help with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So, you know, we recognize that this particular substance, right, whether it is a THC component or a CBD component of the plant, can be very supportive and can be very helpful to a lot of people. But that also can become an addiction as well. So when I say an addiction, I guess I would clarify that word, and so behaviors to acquire a particular substance, or parts of one's daily activities, and becoming slightly disordered, right? So we use that word, substance use disorder. So being able to identify what might be happening in your daily situation that is slightly slightly disordered, slightly out of order. And we are more than happy, I am more than happy to sit down and talk through and discuss any kind of plan moving forward with any and all of the above.
Great. And what about alcohol? Does Ideal Option help with alcohol? And
yeah, go ahead, Melody. Continue.
Nope, I think that was it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, we might see somebody suffering from multiple substances. So it could be an isolated opiate, it could be isolated alcohol use, but it might be, or isolated stimulant use, methamphetamine, cocaine, and we have ways to work with each one of these. There are particular medications that have been tried and true that have strong evidence of creating successful recovery because of the way a particular medication works. And we know that because of some of the medications for opiate use and some of the medications for alcohol use. With stimulant use, there are a number of very promising medications and very helpful medications, but they are still a little bit in the kind of trial period. But we do offer those as well.
Great. So a little bit of a follow-up to the alcohol question. I guess someone wants to know, like, they are in 3 years in recovery after 18 years of active addiction, but sometimes they very rarely enjoy a glass of wine, and some people say they're not in recovery because of that. I know, because I work at Ideal Option, as you've mentioned, that we have patients who we're treating for, opioid use disorder, but sometimes they might still use marijuana or they might still drink alcohol. Can you speak to a little bit about how Ideal Option handles that and I guess polysubstance use and kind of our stance from harm reduction standpoint?
Absolutely. Thank you for that question, Melody, and whoever listener presented that question. So as Melanie stated, first and foremost, we want to make sure patients are safe and that we are providing not only safe but effective care as well. So at each visit, case-by-case scenario, we will take a look at exactly kind of what's going on with every individual. But as a general rule, when somebody has polysubstance use, it can be a fine-tuning of medications that we might offer, because we want to make sure within drug-drug interactions that person is going to be kept safe. So hopefully that answers a little bit of that question.
Yeah, I think so. We have another question. You're actually a nurse practitioner and you're a frontline worker, not necessarily dealing with COVID-19 patients, but patients in general, and just in this stressful time. Someone's wondering if you know of any free mental health resources for nurses or other frontline workers in Washington State or anywhere. I said I would ask this question, but I also am going to follow up with this person after I do a little bit of online research. But I thought I would ask you if you knew of anything.
Yeah, that is a fantastic question, and healthcare workers that are on the front lines, you are all heroes, 100% heroes, every single day out there. So thank you for doing that incredible, selfless, much needed work. And I, as well as Melody, would be very happy to do any amount of research and work if you are in need of some mental health support, ways to navigate this, what I would imagine to be a very scary time for our healthcare workers on the front line. So while nothing immediately comes to mind, I am aware of mental health providers that our organization works with. But I would love to be able to more specifically answer that question for you. So please follow up with us, and we'll reach out to you.
Great. Yeah, I have her email, so I will definitely follow up, and maybe I'll add that to the coronavirus webpage we have as well. We have another question from Kathy Ann, wondering what I guess your opinion, our opinion is on naltrexone, or if you could talk a little bit more about naltrexone or Vivitrol, as the brand name is, or
Yeah,
explain what it is maybe first so people know.
absolutely, absolutely. So in the realm of medications or pharmacology for substance misuse, naltrexone is a great option for individuals with opiate use and alcohol use. So they both can be used either in isolation for either of those, or if it's a polysubstance, alcohol and opiate. Now, in the clinical decision-making process on deciding when to use these medications, there's several factors to consider. Now, the Vivitrol is all that is a monthly injection of the naltrexone, and they're both wonderful medications and have very high success rates. And the naltrexone the Vivitrol is generally reserved for somebody with opiate use after they have maintained some stability. And if we wanted to take that question as well, I can go into more detail. Perhaps the person who wrote in regarding naltrexone and Vivitrol has more specifics, and I'm happy to address those specifics and potentially which medication, if any, is appropriate to them, a loved one, or a family or friend.
Great. Another question. Let's say someone is in early recovery or trying to start their recovery journey. They haven't used medication-assisted treatment to get or stay clean, and they don't necessarily feel comfortable going to, traditional 12-step meetings such as AA or NA. They're wondering where they can go to get support. Are there alternatives? And right now they would be online. Are there alternatives to traditional 12-step meetings and MAT to stay in recovery and get support? Maybe something about smart recovery or other support groups such as that aren't necessarily traditionally 12-step based.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. So, one thing that I will often hear, and you are correct, a lot of these meetings are being held virtually, and I am looking forward to participating in some of them. So, what I hear often from patients is they will go to a meeting because of the people that are there rather than the title of the particular group. For example, in an area north of Seattle, Kenmore, Washington, there's a Cocaine Anonymous group that meets. Well, I have a lot of patients that have never used cocaine. They've used opiates, but they attend that meeting because of all the wonderful activities that Cocaine Anonymous group in Kenmore offers. So they will hold weekly and daily meetings, but they also have fun events. So they will hold a barbecue. They have a summer paintball event where people sign up and they go into the woods somewhere and engage in a paintball tournament. So it sounds like a lot of fun. So, I would say that just because somebody goes to one group and they may not connect with it, continue to seek out different groups. And then as far as being 12-step based and connecting to that or not connecting to that, there are some different groups out there. There's one, I believe it's called the Red Road to Sobriety, or and it's based on Native American principles. And this person was very excited about that, and they engage in some sweat lodge type activities. And you know, I really think what it is it's about connecting with other people, and there's a lot of different ways to reach out and connect with other people. And just as a general principle, I think the older we get, the harder it is to establish friendships. So it can be a little bit daunting, and we can feel shy about engaging in these new endeavors. But I would you know, encourage people to take small steps each day to try to connect with community resources in that way.
Great. Some suggestions that came in. Someone has found online mindfulness classes or support groups, and I will add that to the list of resources. And I'll add that link to our coronavirus webpage to mindfulness online support groups. Someone also suggested that some places are offering as another coping mechanism or substitution, something that's helping them is taking free online workout classes like yoga or Zumba or Pilates. A lot of gyms, since they're not open right now, they're actually having their instructors do online trainings, and a lot of them are doing them for free or just a suggested donation. So that's something I will also add to the resources page, but I thought I would share that. Another person suggested that they are using journaling right now to cope with some of their feelings, and just kind of being mindful about what they're feeling, and just writing a little bit about that. Some people might have more time on their hands and have wanted to do journaling, but they just didn't have time. Well, now might be the perfect time to do that.
Wow, no, that is great to hear all of this. I mean, just to know right now that I am sitting at my computer by myself in my apartment, and I'm connecting right now with all of you, whether it's Melody and the sound of Melody's voice, or all of you writing in questions and hearing those questions, and I really appreciate that, and I know that is something vital that will help to get me through these times, and wish and hope, and I know all of us at Ideal Option are wanting everyone to continue to thrive and connect, and know that you are cared for and safe. So please continue to reach out. We welcome any and all suggestions, and please follow up with any of the emails provided, and I will do my best, and I know Melody as well, to answer all and any questions that we receive.
Great, and I will just add, thank you so much, Ben, for doing this wonderful webinar. As was mentioned in the chat, I'll just say for everyone, this is being recorded, and we will share it. So if anyone listening wants to send me your email to make sure you get it, feel free to use the chat function to send me your email address. We will also put it on our website and our social media channels. Our website is idealoption.com, and you can find the resources and the recording of this webinar, as well as the slides for reference, at idealoption.com/coronavirus. We have a great list of frequently asked questions, and we're also starting a list of resources there for recovery. And I'm going to be adding a lot of the suggestions and links that some of our attendees shared today there as well. So let me see, we actually might have one more question. Oh, no, I already answered that one. Let's see, Is there anything else you wanted to add, Ben?
Well, I'll just close with one final, which is it was a recommendation on a group thread that I'm in with my siblings and my mother, and the recommendation was to text one bright spot of your day in that particular group chat. And that has been a really wonderful thing to contemplate and to share. And I know that I will walk away from today as this webinar as being a bright spot in this particular 24-hour day. So thank you all. Thank you, Melody. And please let us know in any way that we can help.
Thank you, and I'll keep this open just for a little bit longer so you guys can send me your email addresses if you want an email follow-up with the slides and resources and recording. So thanks, Ben. I really appreciate your time, and I know all of our attendees did too. We had over 60 people at one time, so we reached a lot of people today, and I hope it was helpful for everyone.
Great. Thank you, Melody. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Ben.